Hey, hold on, hold. Bag up, Terry. Put it in reverse, Terry. Put it in reverse. Oh, Lord, jeez. What you doing, Terry?
Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner football fans podcast. You got Terry and Rob here. Boomer up.
Boom, Terry.
And we are coming at you from the still COVID-free and murder hornet-free Podcast Palace in beautiful Norman, Oklahoma.
Where we are not affiliated with the University of Oklahoma.
But we do have eligibility left. We got a great podcast coming up for you. We got Gabe Ikard, former Sooner great, sideline analyst for OU football.
Former NFL.
Former
player.
Well, I'm not going to say former stud because that might be offensive to him. So he still probably is a stud. Could probably take us down.
Oh, for sure.
But Rob, how is your shelter in place going?
Well, I hate to say it, Terry, but it's going great.
You loving it, are you?
Yeah, playing a lot of golf almost every day. In fact, so it's, pretty nice, although I did have a little snafu with the unemployment thing.
No.
Might be like 20 days before I get any results from that. But
doesn't pay to make a mistake on that, does it?
No, it does not.
But Caleb's not going to be with us tonight. He's been, I think, on Tuesdays he's not feeling good because, he's on the split shift or he's not working. He's working full time, but not 40 hours. So he has 3 days off. So he's off, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And the last couple of weekends, he's been Saturday, Sunday night, and Monday night in it, or Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night in it. So I think he's recovering from a long weekend. Mm-hmm. He had to go into work today. So, but yeah, got to go play golf with you on Saturday. Going to become a normal deal when the weather straightens up again. We're going to start playing, going to swing by the house in the evenings. Now, I had to call Mike, my buddy Mike out in Mempherica, USA. He sent me we were talking about playing golf, when we were coming off the golf course. And I couldn't figure out how to explain to him in a text message my back-to-back errors on Saturday.
Okay.
Golf errors. Remember
Let me think.
How can you forget it? Well, anyway, I called him. I said, okay, listen, man, I got to tell you something. I did something I've never done in golf before, even when I first started playing, and I did it twice. And what happened, folks, was I teed it up real high.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
And I was going to do my best John Daly impression and grip it and rip it. Missed the ball completely and hit the tee, shot the tee about 15 yards.
You did hit the tee squarely, though.
Yeah. And the ball literally dropped straight down, did it not, Rob?
It did.
Did not move, didn't roll, just dropped.
I thought it was an omen.
Yeah, so we started laughing. Rob, I've never seen that. Neither have I. Ha, ha, ha. Teed it back up again.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yes.
So took two big whiffs, knocked the tee 15, 20 yards down the fairway. Mike was like, dude, you're usually supposed to call people. You call people and tell them that you got a hole in one, not you missed the ball. And I said, well, I didn't know how to explain it in a text. How do you explain that in a text? But he had a question we talked about, Rob. See what your input is on this on golf. He was playing in a two-man scramble. And they had set up all the tees as a par 3 on all of them. Okay, so a par 4, they'd moved it up, the tee box up. I don't remember how far he said, but a decent little distance away. And so everything was a par 3. He got a hole in one. Okay, on a par 4 that was marked as a par 3.
Right. No, yes is the answer.
Yeah, that is a par. Okay, so there you go, Mike. I thought it was too. And, but yeah, he sunk one. He said, so it wasn't on a par 3, but it was a par 3. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there you go. Anytime the ball goes in on a single stroke, it's a hole in one. But so what else have you been doing, Rob?
Playing video games.
Playing video games. Lack for Nothing's in town.
Yep.
Lori came into town today. Rob sent me a picture. Looked like she had been kidnapped.
And tied up.
But so she got out of whatever town she lives in, Claremore, Bixby, Bug Tussle.
Yeah.
Whatever town that is.
Or Lake on the Lodge.
Yeah. Lodge on the lake.
Whatever.
But did watch some UFC fights. Got to watch some. I was going to see if Gabe, when he gets on, if he watched any of those or if he's in the UFC, but got to watch some live sports.
Yep.
It was different with no crowd. You could hear all the coaches, and it was funny. One of the guys, and then they figured out that the fighters could hear Joe Rogan and the guys commentating on the fight, on what they did or didn't do, and they were actually listening to them and would change. The guy said, I can't think of the guy, Cormier, said, I heard him say this, and so I was like, ooh, that's a good idea. So, and I'm like, and they're like, wait, what? You can hear us in the ring? So you could hear everything. So it was pretty interesting, though. Good fights.
What are we going to do if that's football this season?
I watch it on TV.
Well, yeah.
I mean, and that's, again, something that I want to talk to Gabe about is, his thoughts on where football is. Because I think we're seeing now that it's not just in the university and the NCAA's hand. It's in the state government's hands.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure, Terry, they're going to still let me and you go.
Yeah. I mean, we got to be, somebody got to be there to.
Yeah. They're going to call us and say, hey, you two guys are.
Yeah.
Y'all go ahead and come on up.
Yeah.
So.
You still have an all access badge, don't you?
It's last year's.
Well,
I just cover up the year with my finger when I hold it up. Yeah, that'll work.
So
no one else is there. But.
No one. Yeah. We'll get that copied. Surely somebody out there can make a fake badge for me to get in.
Absolutely.
So, but not a whole lot. I want to, again, talking about football and the chances of football. We were talking about before we came on, though. Baseball's trying to gear up, basketball is trying to gear up, but it seems like basketball is getting a little kickback from some of the players.
Mm-hmm.
I heard some of, who wants to stay in a hotel for 3 months. Especially if you're filthy rich and.
Yeah, if you got a mansion, you probably want to stay in it a time or two, but they get paid to play, so I don't know.
Yeah. But, it's in more people's hands, and that's one of the things that we got to consider. And, I wanted to find out from Gabe, too, find out some of his favorite games, maybe not the ones that you would think of. He was part of the Sugar Bowl beatdown of Alabama.
Right.
His senior year. But, maybe a game that we don't know of
that's got to be up there, though.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime we beat OSU, which is every year.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And did you see what Blinken's got?
I did not.
He was talking about it on the podcast last week. He now, I don't know what it's called, but, what are those little Amazon and Google boxes?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? The little speaker thing?
Siri. No, the other one. What's her name?
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But look it up but if you say Google Bedlam play Bedlam Facts, it's Blinken Riley giving you Bedlam Facts.
Nice. Oh, it's Alexa.
Alexa, whatever. But all those little voice things, you can tell it to give you Bedlam Facts.
Uh-huh.
And Blinken will give you Bedlam Facts.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's the thing that everybody, if you got those little, I don't have one of those because those things scare me. Because I'm thinking, I saw the one where they said, Alexa, is the CIA watching me? And it wouldn't answer. It turned off. So,
alrighty.
But you ready to get Mr. Gabe Ikard on the phone?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. All right, Sooner fans on the phone with us. He's a former Sooner great, and he is the host of the Big 12 Today on the Sirius XM Channel 375, which I have listened to. Sideline analyst for Sooner football and the host of the new podcast, The Oklahoma Breakdown, where they break down the biggest stories in sports while focusing on college football, NBA, and life in Oklahoma, which we're going to discuss with him. We have Gabe Ikard on with us. Thanks a lot, Gabe, for joining us, man.
Boys, it's an absolute pleasure. How we doing?
Fantastic. How is life in what do we call it? Safer at home treating you?
Yeah, the quarantine life.
Yeah.
It's been pretty solid for me. I got off to a good quarantine start. We actually stayed in Maui for 3 weeks when all of this started, just kind of waiting to see what happened back here at home before we came back to Oklahoma City. So we had a good start, but since then it hasn't been too bad. Have gotten settled into a routine here. We pretty much always socially distance and stay home a lot and just try to do our part, right? Because if we all do our part, that means the football season gets played, boys.
And I think that's what 90% of Oklahomans are working towards. You see the Twitter posts. It's like, stay home or we're not going to have football. Everybody stay home. It's not stay home for your health. It's stay home so we have football.
Hey, our priorities are perfect alignment.
Yeah, I completely agree with those priorities. So the way I've been viewing this entire thing, so my wife has asthma, so she's considered high risk
Right.
when it comes to all this stuff. So every time if I'm thinking about leaving the house or thinking about doing anything, whether that's groceries, picking up to-go food, whatever, I have two thoughts that go through my head. Number one, am I doing everything I can to make sure that my wife is safe? And then
Right.
number two, am I doing everything I can to make sure that Oklahoma football gets played in the fall? Those are essentially my only two thoughts during my decision-making process throughout all of this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's where my wife is, has health problems too. So she's been locked down since it's happened. I mean, since the lockdown, I haven't allowed her to go anywhere. We took the bulldog out to the lake for the first time. Of course, we were out there pretty much by ourselves, and she wanted to go to. We redid our backyard, and she wanted to go buy plants, and so I put her in pretty much a hazmat suit, and we went out to Home Depot, and she stayed outside, but that's the only two places she has gone. And when you have a family like your wife, when you have somebody that is at high risk, it changes your priorities on what you would normally may react to it. You want to make sure that there's, however, me and Rob have been going and playing golf since
A lot of golf. Yep.
A
But
lot of golf.
yeah,
I got you.
yeah, Rob's been furloughed, so he's testing his golf skills 3 or 4 times a day, right, Rob?
Yep. A couple anyway. I'm too fat to play more than a couple times a day.
But
once in the morning, once at night.
he lives on a golf course, so he walks out on his out his front door. And
but I gotta say this: I was already pretty much a Jedi level master at social distancing, so I was already pretty good at that.
You were already about that social distancing life.
Yeah,
Gabe, Rob lives literally 150 yards from a Walmart and has for as long as since he's lived there, had his groceries delivered.
well, that's just smart.
Not pick up,
Well,
delivered.
I respect the hell out of that. Now, before all of this started, I never thought I would be a person that got their groceries delivered. I'd get up, I'd go do it myself, whether it was Uptown Grocery here in Oklahoma City or Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or whatever. But now that I have experienced how damn convenient getting your groceries delivered is, I'm never going back. I plan to never set foot in a grocery store ever, and I mean ever again.
You are a man after my own heart. In fact, I tell the delivery person sometimes, I love you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I haven't had now Caleb, my son, who normally does the podcast with us, there'll, of course, especially late at night, there'll be a doorbell ring and it'll be, Taco Bell delivering a 12-pack of tacos. Like, who gets Taco Bell delivered?
Yeah. So that's one thing. Yeah, gosh, that is what a power move. That's really interesting because I have yet to commit to kind of the Postmates or Grubhub or Uber Eats thing. If I'm ordering, so I will go pick up, takeout food. If I'm ordering from a restaurant here in Oklahoma City, I'll go pick it up. I don't know if I just feel safer or it makes me feel less lazy or what, but I don't want someone, for some reason, I don't know why I don't like it, but I don't want someone delivering my to-go food. I don't know. It's the exact same thing as the groceries. I don't know why it bothers me, but I'm like, no, I can do that on my own. I can still do that myself.
Well, it's probably because you've lived in Norman, and at some point in time, I'm guessing that at 1 or 2 in the morning, you ordered Pizza Shuttle. And
oh my gosh!
Don't start knocking Pizza Shuttle now, Terry.
No,
we're gonna have a
Pizza
problem.
Shuttle is amazing, but
we essentially had the loyalty card for Pizza Shuttle because my entire time in college, I always lived with other football players, right?
Yeah.
Because we had the same schedule, we understand how demanding it is, so you live together. And I lived with a couple guys, Drew Allen and Justin Chasen and Tom Ward.
Oh, Lord.
They would order, I don't know how many nights a week we would order it, but every time we ordered anything from Pizza Shuttle, whether it was the cheesy bread or pizza or whatever, we added extra cheese to every single dish we ordered, no matter what. So they'd repeat it back to us, be like, you ordered 6 pizzas, 3 cheesy breads, everything extra cheese, right? And just, yes. and eventually, they just had our order memorized. So we'd call after, late Saturday night, and it would be on the way.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I said some of their delivery folk at 2 in the morning are,
salt of the earth. Salt of the earth.
Yeah, there was,
and by salt of the earth, they were certainly great people, but also under the influence of maybe some of the herbs from the earth.
Exactly. There was one night we ordered some because we sit out in the garage, especially during the wintertime. We'll go out there and sit and drink beer and watch TV, listen to music or stuff, and we've ordered it, and instead of knocking on our door, they knocked on our garage door. It was like, don't. We're like, what the hell? And it reminded me of the Saturday Night Live skit, pizza guy. The guy was like, pizza's here. And I'm like, what? So he just real quietly just said, pizza here. And we're like, oh, okay. Opened it up. But yeah, Pizza Shuttle is
It's a staple.
It's a staple. Have you had their meatball sandwich?
I've pretty much had everything they have to offer. We spent one summer just working our way through the entire menu. It was just one of those stupid things you do when you're in college. I mean, we were just like crossing them off one by one. I don't know why we thought it would be cool to say that we've tried everything that they make, but I mean, it's what we did. We thought it was fun at the time, and so I've literally had everything they make.
Yeah, well, their meatball sandwich is the bomb.
Hey, Terry and I tried that at McNelly's when they had all the beers. We didn't make it all the way through, though.
No. Have you tried when McNelly's was there? Did you see their beer menu?
Oh my gosh! Talk about extensive. We do when it was there. I want to say they did some sort of burger night. I can't remember what the special was. We used to hit up that Johnny's on Main Street when they would do, and I'm sure they still do it. They would do half-price burgers on Tuesdays, I want to say, and about 8 of the O-linemen would show up, and we would do some damage and make them regret that decision. But we did the McNelly's burger thing too. I just don't remember what the special was.
Yeah, well, their beer menu was gigantic. And one night, me and Rob were there, and I told them I could do all of them in one night if they would let me. And the lady sat there and looked at me. And
he couldn't.
Yes, I could. I had the brilliant idea is if you bring me a shot of every beer that you have, and there was like 150, 200 beers. They had Japanese beers and
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know if they'll let me do that. And I was, well, go ask and just bring me a whole bunch of shots. They wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it.
But me and Rob got to, it's when you run into the Japanese beers that you have a problem, because Japanese beer is like ass. And I've never tasted ass, but I figure it would taste like.
Sure you have.
He was awfully quick with that follow-up there, wasn't he? I think it's a little suspect.
Your wife didn't get those health problems on her own.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, you get the Japanese beer, and then you kind of lose your momentum to finish up the beer stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how they enjoy that, but
but it is kind of where COVID came over in that part of the world, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, but now with the COVID, now are you concerned at all about murder hornets?
Yes, I think we should be very, very vigilant when it comes to murder hornets.
And how much toilet paper do we need to buy?
Have you seen what those things do to honeybees?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about humans necessarily. It sounds like the murder hornets, it's going to sting a human every once in a while, but it doesn't sound like it's a big threat. Although I did see it described by one person that getting stung by a murder hornet feels like a hot thumbtack going into your skin. I was like, well, that doesn't seem pleasant. But I guess the real threat of the murder hornet is what they do to the bee population.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a bee expert, but I know that a lot of people over the last couple of years have been worried about how many bees are dying off, especially in the United States. So I don't want the murder hornets to ravage the bee population. That would not be good for our farmers here in the great US of A, and it certainly wouldn't be good for our farmers here in the state of Oklahoma. So I think that we should start a coalition. We have to stop the murder hornet at all costs.
Well, there is a guy on Discovery Channel, and I saw it on a YouTube video. Apparently, this brilliant guy, he goes around to the most dangerous stinging, animals, insects in the world, and lets them sting him. Okay.
Oh God.
Yeah, and this guy has
one too many hits on the barn there, buddy.
And he lets the murder hornet sting. Dude almost passed out. Okay, he was just, and then they showed his arm like 10 minutes after, and it looked like about a softball. And then the next day, his arm was just massive. And he said it was.
Yeah, see, I want nothing to do with that. Yeah. Now, I do like my chances. I know the murder hornet's big, right? 2 inches? Like, that's a big ass hornet. But I feel like that I can hold my own if I see it coming.
Yeah.
The thing I would be worried about is if it sneak attacks me, I'm going to be really pissed off.
Yeah, Oklahoma, we live with June bugs, so we're used to big bugs and slapping them out of the sky. So,
had years and years of practice. I think if the murder hornet was wise, and I don't know what its mental makeup is like, guys, but I think Oklahoma would be one of the last places it shows up because it's going to realize it doesn't want to fuck with these people.
Yeah, well, they're they get here, would have a hunting season for them. It's murder hornet season. Everybody load their guns and head out. So
yeah, I don't think you should hunt them with a 9mm.
Turkey season just ended. All right, boys, now it's murder hornet season. We got it.
So stuff want to put it on my wall.
Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you, being a former player, and an elite player, because when you play at Oklahoma, you're an elite athlete, okay? And go back to when if you were in college and this happened, okay? You've been released from school and you can't be on campus. I'm sure the regiment that they, set you on during the off season, you're here, it's, off hands, but on hands, we all kind of know what that means. How is this affecting, how are the coaches keeping up with these guys? Conditioning and works? How hard would it be for you as a player to go, geez, I got to stay in shape, but yet you're not around any, you don't have the teammates pushing you, the drive, all the things that are going around.
Not in your ear.
Yeah, he's done. Yeah. how? I mean,
Yeah.
how would that
I
affect,
gotcha.
and how are these guys having to deal with that?
Yeah, and I know Benny Wiley, but I've never had to work out for him. But I can tell you, Jerry Schmidt during this entire thing would have been an absolute delight to deal with. But it is interesting. There's a lot that factors into this whole thing. And the first thing is it's all about accountability,
Right.
right? So, I was viewed as a team leader. I was a two-time captain. I would have made sure that my guys were doing what they needed to do. I would make sure that everyone was getting the workouts that they were sending us in as much as they can, right, with the equipment that they had available to them. I would make sure that everybody was paying attention when we were doing the virtual meetings with the coaching staff, whether that's just an offensive line meeting or a meeting as a full offense. But I think the one thing, and I know that some guys, I know you are doing this right now, is there may be hour limitations on the time that you can spend meeting with the coaches virtually, but there's no time limit on the players meeting with each other virtually. So I would organize offensive line meetings. I would make sure I would have held everyone as accountable as I could. And I would have felt like that was my responsibility, because that is what is expected of the leaders on a team. Now, would it have been easy? Oh, hell no. My biggest concern for the guys now is the nutritional aspect of things. Because when you're a college athlete and you're on campus and you have the luxury of an athletic dining hall, you have everything you need from a dietary standpoint, and you have a nutritionist or dietitian helping you eat the right things. If you need to lose weight, if you need to gain weight, if you need to maintain weight, your strength and conditioning staff and your nutritionist and dietitian all put a plan together for you. Now, that is very difficult to do when everyone is spread out across the country and your parents are cooking for you. especially when you think about the financial strain. And I know that they're still getting their scholarship checks and the cost of attendance and all that stuff, but eating healthy costs a lot of damn money.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. Anyone that has gone to a Whole Foods understands that. Now, they are sending these guys what they should be eating. I talked to Charlie Brewer, the quarterback from Baylor, earlier today, and he said that their staff is sending out pictures of what their dinner plates and lunch plates should all look like. Like, they're making it that easy for the kids, but that doesn't mean that everyone has these resources available to them.
Right.
I think there's going to be some guys that show back up that are way underweight, some guys that show back up that are way overweight, and it's easy to criticize them because you just say, hey, be accountable. But under the circumstances, you're going, oh, okay, I can kind of understand that.
If grandma shows up with her no-bake cookies,
right,
you're going to eat no-bake cookies from grandma.
I'm not worried about the guys understanding concepts and things like they have a lot of meeting time now, right? These, especially for Oklahoma, they have their systems in place with Alex Grinch and Lincoln Riley, and they're not overly complicated systems. Those guys know that stuff. Where you worry about what they're missing right now is the live reps during spring ball.
Right.
That's what they miss. Those are reps you can't get back. You can't simulate. It's just difficult. And especially when you have a couple position battles going on and really productive players that you have to replace, it's not an ideal situation. But then you remember, everyone across the country is in the exact same situation as Oklahoma.
Right.
So everyone's trying to make the best of it. One thing that the Sooners are doing right now, which I find very interesting, is they went over all their concepts, right? They did all their installs, rehashed everything that they went over when they were meeting during the winter, when they were going through winter conditioning. But Lincoln Riley has shifted them at times to some bigger picture concepts where they're looking at NFL teams and what they do on offense and defense, and just having these guys get a deeper football education. So they're learning things that they may have never learned when it comes to their football knowledge. So I think that can be really advantageous moving forward. I think that these guys are going to be smarter football players. Are they going to be behind physically? Yeah, there's no doubt. But maybe the mental growth that they go through during this period will pay off in a big way.
Well, and, like you say, the family dynamic would have to be involved in it, I would think, as well. Like you said, the mom's cooking, my dad, ex-Green Beret, it wouldn't have been a problem. I just played high school football, and every summer I had to report to either the high school stadium or out back with the axe, and I had to work every day, condition every day, because that's just how my dad was. You're going to play a sport, I'm going to make sure you're ready for it. But if the kid, and like you said, the players holding them accountable each other, but the family would have to be almost that involved as well with the player going, hey, you've got to get your workout in. What are what's on it today? I would think that the family would be part of that too. Is that the case? You think that the coaches are communicating, make sure this gets done, or
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think especially with everyone being at home and being around their parents and siblings, it's got to be a group effort, right, to hold the players accountable, because every day you may not want to do the workout that Benny Wiley sent you, but you got to have the bigger picture in mind. And I'm sure Lincoln Riley and his coaching staff, they always do a great job of keeping the players' families in the loop, make sure that there are constant lines of open communication between the staff and those parents. So I'm sure they've been communicating with them, telling them the expectations, but also keeping them updated with what they're hearing from the leadership of the university, because I think that's a big concern right now for a lot of people is, okay, when is my son going to be able to return back to college and have the college experience? Because right now, and it's not just student athletes, but all these college kids are missing out on the best part of college, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
like they're just taking all these virtual classes and not getting to go out or go to dinner or meet new people. I mean, it just sounds awful.
Yeah, you're right. I mean that, and Rob's son he was senior this year at OU and graduated. He was a roughneck and everything, but he's not getting to enjoy the senior year experience.
Yeah, no graduation for him either. I mean, I think they're going to try and do one in August, but it's still kind of iffy. And if he has a summer internship, because he's going to come back and get his master's degree, he may not be able to come back and walk. So that would be sad. But
it's who would have thought back in March at an Oklahoma City basketball game that one guy would test positive and the world open up and swallow sports and say, "Yep, you're done."
And it is interesting that happened in Oklahoma City. I actually wasn't at that Thunder game, which I would have been at because I was at a steakhouse in Oklahoma City watching Blake Bell get engaged to his now fiance. So that's why I wasn't there. So I was getting updates on my phone from friends going, what the hell's going on? Because they thought I was at the game. I was like, I'm not there. I got no idea. I'm at dinner. And I had to eventually, my brother texted me. He's like, you got to pull this up on your phone. And I pulled it up and I was like, oh, this seems bad. This is not good. And And sports has been shut down since, although we did get a little taste of some UFC this weekend.
Are you a UFC fan?
I'm not, so I don't. I'm not gonna pretend like I watch a lot of UFC, but I watched it. I watched the main cards, and just being able to hear all those punches and kicks, I was just like, man, these dudes are insane. Yeah. What are they doing? But it was cool to get to hear the communication. And that's one thing. I know a lot of people are concerned about sports coming back, but I know a lot of OU football fans are starting to get concerned with, will they be able to go to the games when the games come back?
Right.
And it's an interesting question. I think it's going to be it's going to be a very regional thing. I mean, you're seeing all this stuff coming out on the West Coast right now. The Pac-12 talking about only playing teams in that conference. You had the governor of Oregon talk about how he's not anticipate hosting any events with fans through September. So it's going to be different in different parts of the country. I feel pretty confident that the teams in the Big 12 are going to try to make it work, and certainly the teams in the SEC are going to make it work.
Yeah, but one of the things that I keep referring back to, it's really, I mean, it's not the teams and the conference's choice. I mean, obviously if it's their choice, they're going to try to make it work, but it's the state governments. If one of these state governors says we're not going to allow any crowds, then what? Or if you have 15 states that say that, we're not allowing crowds until, it'd
probably just take one state somewhere to say that, and it would kill it for everyone.
Right. And
it will be interesting. It will be interesting because, of course, you want fans in the stands. As a former athlete, there's nothing better than feeding off the energy of the crowd. But if I learned anything from watching a couple of those UFC fights, is I think I can get used to watching just for 1 year or a couple of weeks or whatever it is. I can get used to no fans in the stands if it means we get games, right?
Yeah.
I think the important part is we have live sports to watch, and no fans in the stands would actually bring an interesting element, and it wouldn't be permanent, guys. It would just be a one-time thing, right? But just imagine you can hear the quarterback in the center communicating. You can hear all the guys on the defense communicating. You can hear the coaches yelling at the players from the sideline. It would be kind of fun just for a couple games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and on the UFC fights, one of the fighters, we were talking about it earlier before we got you on, was he heard Cormier talking about something he wasn't doing. And Cormier is one of the color guys. Joe Rogan and him are sitting there talking. He said, I heard y'all say blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, man, I got to try, It's like, and then they were shocked. It's like, they can hear us talking, as the commentators. And one of the fights they commentated about they were speaking in code. The guy was like, pizza. He was yelling out pizza, slice, and it was all food oriented. And they were like, he's talking, what are they, but they were talking in code. So they wouldn't, I guess pizza meant something else, I'm sure it did. Or maybe the guy just liked pizza. I don't know. But it was interesting to watch that. And then the fighter's response was afterwards and stuff. It was like, when you got there, it really, the crowd, you do feed off of it, but you're in the middle of it. You're an athlete. You're here to fight. And they all did. I mean, they were all great fights, but, and then I liked what, Dana said afterwards is, I don't give a crap what any of y'all think about why I did it. These guys wanted to be here. We took all the precautions. If everybody wants to complain, let them complain. Don't watch it. We did what we wanted to do. Everybody was safe. And, I personally think, and I could be wrong, but, I think football with crowds is next to impossible to happen this year. I hate to say it that way, but I mean,
Terry, we're going to need you to have a little better attitude about this, because we don't like that.
I mean, I think they're going to have football. I mean, but and Teddy had put out Teddy had put out a post on the Oregon deal, and I kind of say, I think we're going to have to I think this year be ready to tailgate at home and watch it on the TV, because there's so many things that go into it. And if there's another upkick in cases here, they keep saying there's going to be a second wave. When is that wave hit? All the things that, even if it doesn't, I have a hard time believing that a state government, a governor, or anybody is going to say, without a vaccine or a known good treatment, that we're going to put 90,000 people around a 100-yard football field. That's just me. Now, if they say, yes, it's open up, guess who's going to be there? I will be there, but, and I want to be there. I want the games to, crowds, but it just seems like that's the route it's going. The NBA is trying to get things rolling right now, but apparently some of the players are pushing back, is that they're not real happy with, having to go stay in hotels, and baseball's trying to get it kicked off, and and if Tennessee, or what happens if Tennessee shut down? Well, does that mean Oklahoma doesn't play Tennessee, or we're just going to see a modified schedule of just the Big 12, just conference games? I don't really care. I don't care if they line up, in the street and play. I just want them to play. But they got to be safe about it. They got to be, and whatever your political views or health views or anything else, it's still something that they have to consider, because in this society that we live in, this is kind of, we don't like to get political, but people go to an OU game and half the crowd get, come out sick. You talk about lawsuits, it would happen. So I don't know. It's just, I'd have never thought in my lifetime we'd be sitting around here thinking, is there going to be football?
Yeah.
It's just, it's weird.
Never something that really crossed my mind either. And there's still so much time, though, right, between now and the football season. Now, I'm with you. I am, let's go with cautiously optimistic at best.
Right.
For fans being in the stands, especially early during the season. But I think there's so many factors, right? And what could work for one state may not work for the other, like you're saying. The important part is, for me, is you have to trust the medical professionals.
Right.
You have to trust the people that have made this stuff their life's work, because frankly, we don't know shit about this stuff.
Exactly.
We know what we read, and we know what we hear on whatever media outlet you're choosing to go with. And we're all hearing different things. Now, some of the things are similar, but it has been politicized in a way that is unfortunate. But you just have to trust that these people in these leadership positions, whether that's local government, federal government, these medical professionals, you just have to trust that they're going to do the right thing, and that they're going to do what is in the best interest of people. And that's not exactly a comfortable position for a lot of Americans. You have to put that much trust in those people. And the unfortunate part is, sports is usually the way a lot of people get away from real life. And I was that way, still am.
Yeah.
Right? I don't view working games, whether it's TV or radio, as a job. I view it as, me being able to get away from any problem I may be having in my life, and to enjoy watching some damn football and talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really starting to wear on people that they don't have that escape.
Yeah.
Right now.
I'm tired of Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
I will sit and I'll watch baseball games. But this time of year I'll watch a little bit about boxing. There's something on that you can sports wise that you can stop on and and watch. And now, I'm not a, go back and watch games guy myself. I don't like watching games that have already happened. I will sometimes, but there's no excitement in it. You already know the outcome. So I'm not one that sits back on the YouTube and, watch the 85 national championship game. I'm like, I know who wins. So it's like watching the movie Titanic. I didn't want to go see that because the boat sinks in the end. That's the whole story. So, but let's get off of all. I wanted to ask a couple of sports, as far as former player questions. Number one, since we're talking about staying in condition, you had Schmitty as your strength and what is the most insane thing that he ever had you guys do, that when he said, okay, you need to do this, and you were like, what in the hell is wrong with you? Was there anytime any of that ever happened that you're like, what does this benefit me?
Essentially every workout. We did. So I will say this about Jerry Schmidt. I will, and you'll hear a lot of horror stories about the man, and they're all true. I can guarantee they're all true. But I will give him credit. I will forever be indebted to that man, because the one thing, and everything we did probably wasn't the best for our bodies, and it probably didn't benefit us from a strength gain standpoint at times, but he made you do things that you thought you weren't capable of doing. He made you comfortable with being extremely uncomfortable. And when I started with Schmitty, I wasn't exactly the toughest guy. Still I'm not. I'm not going to pretend like I'm some tough guy. But to go back and think about where I was when I showed up June 1st of 2009 to where I was my last day at OU, the night we beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, to know how much I had grown as a person, I owed a lot of that to Jerry Schmidt. And it took me a while to realize that, because at the time, you just hate the man because it's miserable.
Yeah.
And it's not fun, and it's a ton of hard work, and it hurts. But he made me realize that I was more capable of things than I thought I was, that I could do more, that the limits I put on myself, whether that was physically from a football standpoint or mentally from a school standpoint, that I could push myself further than I thought I could. And that's the biggest influence Jerry Schmidt had on my life. Now, did he throw a 45-pound bumper plate at my leg the first day when I was a freshman? Yeah, he sure did. Did he make us run 6 trippers as a warm-up when essentially all the offensive linemen almost died before we even started the official workout? Yes, that happened. Did he make us push 300-pound sleds on a brand new turf field where it had an incredible amount of rubber so that those sleds wouldn't slide, and all of us almost passed away on that hot turf? Yeah, that happened too. But when I look back on it, it may take you a while, but it is kind of a classic hindsight 2020 question.
Yeah.
He made me tougher. He made me tougher. He made me feel like I was capable of things that I didn't think I was capable of. And he taught me a lot.
Yeah.
He taught me a lot. Now, if I saw him today, I'd tell him I still hate him, but it's funny. It's funny how cool he is. Once you graduate, and I was coming back when I was playing in the league, he's the coolest guy in the world. He's great. He's the best.
Every time he walked away from you there, you're like, God, you were an asshole.
There was one time where he actually took my side. We had assistant strength coach named D-Train, which is a hell of a nickname.
Yeah.
And we were running stadiums on the east side of the stadium on the metal bleachers in cleats. This guy's whole philosophy was, well, you play in cleats, right? So we're going to run stadiums in cleats. Now we do it. So you'd run up on the concrete, you'd come down on the metal, right? On the bleachers. And at one point, I'm coming down and it's the first time we're doing it. And I just stop and I look at Schmitty and D-Train and I just go, what the fuck are we doing? Like, guys, we are coming down these metal bleachers in cleats. Am I losing my mind, or is this the dumbest thing? And at this point, I'm a captain. Like, I'm one of the leaders. I'm losing it, guys. I will fully admit. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, this is the dumbest thing on planet Earth. And we did it one more time. I lost it again. I was like, this is so stupid. And eventually, I bitched so much that we stopped and we actually just got to run them in tennis shoes. But that's the one time where I think Schmitty actually let me win.
Well, I mean, you were right, and he wasn't going to tell you were right. That's why he got that one more in there. And then
one more.
Yeah, and then it was like, okay, let's get tennis shoes on.
It was baffling. There's so many guys. You talk to any guy that was there when Jerry Schmidt was there. We all have stories.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You know, one of the things, old school guys like me and Rob, again, we're not, close to the level of athlete that you were when you played, but, we played high school ball and stuff, but it dumbfounds me that we watched, it doesn't dumbfound me because I understand it now, but, OU has always got, during fall practice and the camp and stuff, they got the cameras there and they're putting stuff out on Twitter, and they got the guy standing over there between reps eating cantaloupe and apples, and there's this spread. Do you know what we had when I played sixth grade football in McAllister, Oklahoma? We got a handful of ice in August.
Yeah, I think sports science has come a long way since then, Terry. Yeah. And that was interesting because Tiffany Bird got hired right before my senior year. And we really hadn't had that person. We had a nutritionist that served the athletic department, that whole thing, but we hadn't had someone that could really lock in on every player individually and create meal plans and give advice, do all that. And when Tiffany Bird showed up, a lot changed. And a lot of things changed that made us very, very angry. I mean, she took away all the good food from snacks the night before games. She took away all the unhealthy stuff. And once again, as the leader of the team, I had to do some negotiating with Coach Tiff to try to get some things like buffalo wings back the night before the game. But she took her job extremely seriously. Now she's moved on recently. But, yeah, that whole thing, sports science, the information out there about how that affects your performance and, all the nutrition information, it has become massive in college football.
Yeah, like I said, I played, sports and stuff, and I even asked my dad, one time, because when I was young, I boxed, okay, and again, you didn't drink water during practice. They didn't give it to you. It made you tougher. You need to work without it and stuff. But I was like, I asked him, I was like, why? I wanted to drink. We worked out in my dad bought an old church and put a, old one-room Indian Baptist church in McAllister, Oklahoma, put a ring in it, heavy bag. It was hot. There was, no ventilation, anything. And I'd be like, why do I get to drink between rounds in a match, but I can't have a drink of water when we're practicing? He never could answer that. It was like,
You call that the Schnellenberger technique.
Yeah. Drinking water during practice, makes you weak. And that was how people thought of, back then. I don't know if my dad thought it made you weak, or it's just how you trained back then. And it was like, golly. But I see that,
I'm glad I didn't have to do that. I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad that I missed that whole phase.
Yeah, because like I said, we got a handful of ice. It was crushed ice, and you got a handful of it, and you had like 5 minutes to eat it, and then you started back to practice. And middle of August in southeastern Oklahoma with 115% humidity, it was horrible. But when I got into high school, our coach was actually a little bit different. I think a little bit ahead of time. He had water. If we were in the middle of practice, I could holler at one of the trainers, and they'd be out there by the defensive or offensive huddle, and they'd hand you a drink of water. He allowed it, so which was odd, for us, but we'd grown up not getting any of that. But you brought up the Sugar Bowl game when you guys put a beat down on the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Great game, by the way.
Great way. And by the way, Rob doesn't believe in this stuff, but I'm going to let you know that I had a direct effect on that game.
Yeah, Terry helped y'all.
I helped y'all, okay, because every time y'all had the ball, I stood up. Okay, the times that I sat down were bad when you were on offense. So
yeah, see, that's where it went wrong. We saw you standing. We were like, you know what? We just can't put together a good drive here. He needs to sit down.
Yeah. So, I did my part. Rob didn't, because Rob doesn't believe in this stuff.
I don't.
But
neither do I, Rob.
But it makes me feel good, okay?
You know what he's thinking right now? Listen, I was dealing with a 325-pound guy that wanted to rip my head off. Where were you, Terry? You were standing up in your living room.
Drinking a beer.
I was dealing with Jeffrey Pagan and Brandon Ivory and Ashawn Robinson and Jonathan Allen and C.J. Mosley. But no, it was you. It was, you're right. The difference was whether or not your ass was standing.
I love it.
It had nothing to do with Clinton Dix and identifying when he was coming on safety blitzes. It was all the standing and sitting.
Hey, I felt like it was my part. Okay, that's all I could do, but I did it. Okay, but a lot of the stuff that came out after the game pissed us off, and I'm sure it pissed you guys off. Well, Alabama, they weren't interested in playing. They were expected to be playing in the national championship. Nothing in that game looked like they came out there half-assed. Did it feel like they came out there half-assed and prepared? Because I think they did.
You saw their first drive, right?
Yes, I know.
When they went right down the damn field and scored a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Everyone on the offensive side of the ball was on the sideline going, well, boys, we better score a shit ton of points. Here we go. I mean, and anyone that wants to say they didn't care, that's fine. I don't believe it. I saw the guys arguing in the second half on the sideline. I saw them pushing each other. I also saw them on Bourbon Street during the week because we were out there too getting drunk. So if that's their excuse, it doesn't work because there was nobody drinking more than the OU offensive lineman during that week. I can assure you of that. So whatever excuse they want to use, that's fine. But the bottom line, boys, is for the rest of my life, I will be undefeated against the Alabama Crimson Tide.
That's right.
That's right.
Here, take this L and go back to Alabama.
They could say whatever they want, but that's the great thing about sports. You can make all the excuses in the world, but it comes down to your score versus their score.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Who was better that day? And that day, we were in better football.
Absolutely.
Kick the snot out of it.
It was a great night. It really was. Now, on that too, okay, great game and everything, but what was your personal best game? Okay, the one that maybe we wouldn't think about that everything that you did clicked.
Okay, this is going to be a very weird answer. Going back, I think the best game I played at OU was the Cotton Bowl against Texas A&M. And I know that sounds weird because we got our ass kicked in that game, but I had to play two different positions. I had to play guard and center, and I played at a very high level in that game, even when we were getting throttled.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that, and NFL teams look at that stuff, and I knew that, but that's one thing that I always pride myself in is, and I wasn't the best player in the world, but I was a really good college player. But no matter what the score was, I was going to play the same way all game.
Yeah.
Now, there's emotional ups and downs in football games, there's no doubt. But when you're in between the lines, you got to play the same way all the time. That's how you have to train yourself. That's how you have to condition yourself in practice. And I think, and I haven't gone back ever, I don't think, and watched that Cotton Bowl. But I remember walking off the field and going, you know what? Johnny Manziel's a hell of a football player, but I played really well.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, saying that publicly or anything, but in my head I was like, you know what? You did your best. You did. So that's one that I've always remembered. And
well, that's why I ask it, because
really well. We had a great game plan and played really well at Notre Dame, but that had a lot to do with Bill Bedenbaugh. We had a really good run game plan for the Irish that day. A lot of good coaching went into that one.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask that, because I know most people wouldn't think that you would sit back and go, man, that Cotton Bowl, I played a really good game. I did, because I was thinking it's going to be, it could be somebody like, Kansas State or Louisiana Lafayette or whatever. Just, that's always interesting me, is that what game in your career stands out, win or lose, personally, that you were proud of what you did, or you knew that you did.
And was that also the game that you had the most fun playing?
No, we got our ass kicked.
Right. So okay. I thought that would be your answer. Yeah.
In the Cotton Bowl, but it's weird because football is the ultimate team game, but really, it's just a bunch of individual battles.
Right.
So my thought process was always, hey, if I play my best, if I do my job, that's the best way to contribute to the team. Now, I can't worry about what other guys are doing. I got to do my best. And it always feels, and whether guys want to admit this or not, if you lose a game, it doesn't feel as bad if you played at a high level and you played well. It just doesn't.
Right.
But it still sucks to lose, and you're miserable. But it's a lot worse if your team loses and you played shitty.
Yeah.
It's just a lot worse. So I tried to just, hey, bring it every game, no matter what the score was. Of course, there's, you get momentum and you get hyped up and all that stuff and all the emotion that goes into football. But it was always, hey, when you're on the field, you play one way. And that's kind of, if any young football player asked me for advice, I'd say, that's it. No matter what the score is, no matter what the situation, you play the same way all the time.
Another question now, weren't you recruited as a tight end?
I was.
So,
I was a slender 242-pound tight end out of Ennis Catholic High School in Oklahoma City.
That's what I thought. Now, how did the conversation go when they went? Because I think I remember when they said they were moving you out of tight end into, interior lineman. What did it shock you? Were you pissed off? Were you like, what? Why?
I wasn't thrilled, but the way that they framed it, I was kind of excited because we were shifting to, more of a spread offense from what I understood. Now, Kevin Wilson, he really liked using tight ends, but I was brought to OU to be a blocking tight end anyways. I was supposed to be Brody Eldridge's replacement, be able to play tight end, fullback if they needed me to. Like I was there to block. And basically they came to me, Wilson and Heupel and Coach Stoops, and said, hey, we think if you move to center, you can play a lot of games. You can play a lot more snaps than you would at tight end. We can use you a lot more. We think you will really thrive. And they got a good look at me blocking defensive linemen because my redshirt year, when I was still playing tight end, I would play tight end and individual, and when we were doing offensive portions of practice, and then when the scout team was giving the defense a look, about week 1, I got moved from tight end on the scout offense to scout team center because, as Jackie Shipp would put it, I was the only one that would block anybody. So I went from blocking an all-conference guy and Jeremy Bill every snap and Frank Alexander, and I was winning a lot of those battles. I was holding my own, and the coaches noticed. So Jackie Shipp took me and he said, Gabe Ikard, you're going to get in there and you're going to block Gerald. And you got to remember Gerald McCoy was an All-American.
Yeah, we remember.
I was like,
This was Adrian Taylor before he broke his leg, and he was stronger and more powerful, not as twitchy, but stronger than Gerald was. So I went from blocking Jeremy Beal to bumping inside and blocking Gerald McCoy and Adrian Taylor every single day.
Oh, my gosh.
And it made me better.
Yeah.
It made me better. Now, I ended up on my back every once in a while, but it made me a better player, and it taught me a lot about leverage and just what I needed to do to be able to manipulate people and block them. So they got to see that during the season. I was still doing both. And then in spring ball, I was still playing tight end. And then they kind of came to me and said, hey, you want to try this a little bit? And so I jumped in. And it's funny because I'll never forget it. My first day after practice, when we had the talk, I'd played tight end throughout all practice. They're like, okay, you need to start working on snapping if we're going to do this. And the first quarterback I ever snapped to, Josh Heupel.
So now, do you still? This is a weird question. I'm trying to think. You brought up Heupel, and it just popped in my head. Bad blood. I don't know if there's bad blood or not. Do you still talk with Coach Heupel?
I haven't talked to Heupel in a long time. It has nothing to do. Heupel and I are cool.
Yeah.
There's no bad blood now. I know that he probably feels a certain type of way because he got fired.
Yeah.
At his alma mater. Plus he brought a national championship, and that's one of those things where I all the players that played for him, and I know that I feel this way about James Patton. There was nothing worse than guys losing your job because you didn't play at a high enough level. I know a lot of people think about the coaches and criticize them. My first thought when a coach gets fired, and simply just because I went through it, is those players got him fired. They didn't play well enough. Now, is the coach responsible to get the players playing at a really, really high level? Yes, but in our case, I always felt like, and Heupel didn't get fired when I was there, but James Patton did, and I always felt a deep sense of responsibility when Patton lost his job. I mean, he landed on his feet. I wasn't worried about him, but it always bothered me.
Yeah.
It always bothered me because in my mind, it wasn't, he didn't coach us well enough. I felt kind of the opposite way. Like, hey, he coached us plenty well. We just didn't play well enough for him And there's nothing worse as a player, whether it's college or professionally. There's nothing worse than getting a coach fired. It's
we as fans don't see it that way. That's the first time I ever honestly ever even thought about it that way. That the player would.
A lot of people think of like, oh, thank God, he's fired. Now we can get someone better. That's never how I viewed it, and there's no doubt. Bill Beanbo came in after Patton moved on, and Beanbo's one of the best offensive line coaches on planet Earth.
Right.
I mean, it didn't take me long to realize how special Beanbo was when I started meeting with him, but it didn't make me feel any better about getting Patton fired. I mean, it just didn't.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I had let him down, especially where I was at, when it came to a leadership position in that offensive line room. It still bothers me. It does.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I asked Toby this. We had him on a couple of weeks ago, and now being an analyst and watching the game, because you're on the sidelines, right?
Yep.
Down there, and is there ever been a time during any game since you've been down there that you were like, "What the hell were they thinking running that?" And I'll just throw this out there, squib kick, but that's just us. Okay?
Repunt.
So I actually watched the squib kick. I was still playing in the NFL for the squib kick. I was watching that by myself because my wife had gone to the game. She had gone to the Rose Bowl. I was watching by myself in a hotel room in New Orleans. And we're getting ready to play in a playoff game, and I just had the worst feeling when
you and everybody else
and they got points out of it. And I put a tweet out there that I was like, I really hope that doesn't matter, but I feel like it matters.
Yeah,
and it certainly did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it certainly did. But I am pretty fair and measured and honest with my criticisms. Probably, when they ran the triple option and Kyler Murray was the pitch guy, that was one of those things where I was like, I don't think they needed to run that. But Lincoln Riley, he's pretty damn great.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to offensive play calling, and offense is what I know. They've been so productive offensively. Really, the only times you can criticize them is when they get to the college football playoff and lose.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty easy to criticize those. Getting off to the slow start in the Orange Bowl took them too long to settle in, that whole thing. And then LSU, that was wasn't particularly close, but LSU was beating the hell out of anybody. So I don't know. I think with how they're starting to recruit, OU, although it looked like they may be a long way off with how that Peach Bowl went, they're closing the gap. And Lincoln Riley he's one of the best coaches in all of college football.
Well, and I don't think they're a long way off, and I don't think they have been a long way off. They're just, look at where LSU was a year ago, or 2 years ago. That, to me, as a fan, is what's been frustrating. Rob and I have talked about it before. It's like, okay.
We always seem to be right on the cusp. We just can't get over that hump.
How does LSU skip us and get there, and that's what's frustrating as a fan, is sitting back going, everything is clicking. We've got the best, I think one of the, if not the best.
For 2 years in a row, we had the best offense in college football.
The best offensive coach in college football. I think a lot of it fell back on, I know a lot of it fell back on the defense not being able to stop, but it was just like, we're just right there. Like Rob said, we're on the cuff every year, and it's like, and I, people were like, yeah, see, I'm with you. Anybody, whoever LSU played, they were going to, beat the brakes off of them. Whether it be Utah or Oregon, people are like, Oklahoma didn't even deserve to be there. Yeah, we did. Everybody else lost. Oklahoma deserved to be there because everybody else lost another game. Oklahoma took care of their business. Some people, say, well, they just, by default, no. they were they were a one-loss team and a Power 5. They didn't back into it. Other teams that you're supposed to take care of business to get there. But I've always, being a fan, and an analyst, I just wondered if you ever, that's one of the things I did like about the XFL, because they would have, every now and then put the mics on the coaches, and it would, there was one time Bob was like, who the hell was he throwing that to? Why would he throw it to him? That's the coach talking. So I was just wondering if there was ever a time you're like, what was that? Why did we do that? Or like we as fans at home do, oh my God, what is going on out there? But
yeah, that happens.
Yeah,
that certainly happens. But usually, I have the capability of turning my mic on and off on the sideline, so I keep it permanently on off, just so they don't get any, let's go with unfiltered reality.
Unfiltered Gabe is not
that has come to bite many a reporter.
Not good for the radio airwaves.
Yeah. So did you ever think, going back, did you ever think this is what you'd be doing? You'd be on the sidelines during OU games, given the analysis, and which, by the way, when we do listen to the games, we've tried the syncing it, to the TV and stuff, and we're pretty good at it. Problem is that it's behind like 3 or 4 seconds, and our friends text us, safety, we're like, what, 3 seconds before the safety happens. So it's kind of hard, you got to put everything away, but I
think there's a way to sync it up. I'm not entirely sure. I know Toby Rowland and Chris Plank know how to do it.
Yeah, well, that's what
reach out to you guys.
Yeah, well, we did when we had Toby on it, but it's just behind. The radio broadcast is behind him, which that's another thing that he said, that there is stuff looks like in the future that if we want to watch an OU game, because I asked him, why can't, if I'm watching Major League Baseball on DirecTV and I come to watch my Cardinals play, that I get to choose whether I want to listen to the Cardinals broadcast or the Pirates broadcast, whoever's calling the game. Why can't college football be that way? And I know that during the playoffs you can do that. I just couldn't figure out how to do it on ESPN. We were trying to do it, but it's just we can sync it up, but it's the radio is delayed behind the TV. And actually the TV is behind the actual game, because if you're ever at a game watching it at a tailgate, the crowd roars and you're like, what? And then the play happens on the TV. But did you ever think this is, was this a goal to do sports? No.
It was not. It kind of just happened. The plan was to be a doctor.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was. OU's version of pre-med. That was my major there during college, and took all the prereqs for med school. They were able to make that work through some great academic advisors there at the University of Oklahoma. Shout out to Annette Moran. So that was the plan. And then professional football came into the picture, and it became a very real goal. So went and did that in 4 years. And a lot had changed in my life in those 4 years playing in the National Football League. And one thing that had changed was that I had some unexpected, sports media opportunities that I really hadn't sought out. But some people had asked if I was interested, and I was kind of debating whether or not to retire from playing football, and decided I'd give it a whirl and see if I liked it. And I liked it a lot. So it was never the plan. It was never the plan.
Well, it's worked out nicely.
My mom, I can't imagine doing anything else. Love doing it. Take a lot of pride in doing it. Work really hard at it. And it is a constant disappointment to my parents, though. They thought I was going to be at least a lawyer, if not a doctor. So I went from being the cool son in my family, playing in the National Football League, to now being probably the least cool because my oldest brother runs a hospital here in Oklahoma City, and my other brother works at the most financially secure law firm in the world in Chicago. So I'm just a sports media guy now, but I'm fine with that. I'm really enjoying it.
So you have to sit at the kids' table at Thanksgiving. Is that what you're saying? They're like, yeah, all the successful doctors and lawyers sit at the table. Everybody else.
Don't get it twisted. I made a lot more money than them playing football than they made in their first couple years working. So they're still playing catch up on that end.
Yeah, see, there you go. You always got the.
Well, you got to lord that over them too.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to say, listen, my first contract. You can't.
Oh, they know.
Yeah. So okay, I know how I was with my brother. Did you call them up when you got your first paycheck and go, guess what?
No. They're both extremely successful. So it's, we don't have that level of competition. For brothers, we never fight. We're all about kind of building each other up and helping each other in any way we can. It's kind of a weird dynamic.
Most people would call it normal, but hey, you can call it weird if you want to.
For brothers, that's anything but normal.
Yeah, we grew up in the weird family. We're still comparing. I was proud when I finally got my first Jeep 5 years ago. I'm like, man, I finally own a Jeep. It's my dream car. My brother started collecting Corvettes. I'm like, why?
Just what the hell, bro?
Yeah. I was like, man, what do you think of the Jeep? Oh, that's pretty nice. He works in the oil field, and he goes, that's pretty nice. Look over there. See that red Corvette over there? I was like, yeah, and it's an old Stingray, the old 80s, cool looking.
80s or 70s?
70s.
Yeah, okay,
70s.
Yeah.
70s. And he's like, where any of that? And I was like, that's pretty cool. And he goes, that's my third one. And I was like, why you keep buying? And he said, no, I own 3. And I'm like, shut up. Okay.
Because 2 is just not good enough.
Yeah. And then he has the Camaro SS as well. And a whole bunch of Harleys. So that's his thing. And I'm like, wow, okay. Well, my Jeep is still always one I wanted to drive. So shut up. That's all I have to say. But, well, Gabe, tell everybody about the new podcast that's out, which you guys are dropping stuff. I feel like if you're talking to us, you're not putting one out, because y'all put one out just about every day, it seems like, the Oklahoma Breakdown. Tell us a little bit about your podcast. Tell everybody where to find it and all that stuff.
Yeah, you can find it on all the major podcast platforms, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Just search the Oklahoma Breakdown. You'll find it. It's me and Teddy Lehman, a name that a lot of OU fans will probably recognize. And it's basically a sports podcast where we talk about the biggest stories in all of sports with a big emphasis on college football. And we talk about sports and life in the state of Oklahoma. So the vision that we have for it is that it can be a one-stop shop for people to get their national sports news and their local sports talk in one place. Because a lot of national podcasts that are based in LA and New York City and these big cities, frankly, they don't feel the need to mention Oklahoma.
Right.
And we take a lot of pride in being Oklahomans. We take a lot of pride in playing at Oklahoma. This place is home for us. It always will be. It's where, we're staying and where we're, starting our families and stuff like that. And we take an immense amount of pride in this great state. And it's always bothered me that, Oklahoma at times becomes some sort of punchline that people mock. And we just want to showcase some of the really good stuff going on in the state and talk about sports. There'll be a ton of OU football, clearly, that we'll talk about. We'll talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder whenever the NBA returns. We'll talk about the biggest stories in sports, especially in college football. But also we do a segment called Keeping It Local, where we emphasize a story, whether or not it's going on in the sports world in Oklahoma. And then we actually take Twitter questions from the podcast Twitter page, which is at OK_breakdown. And we answer people's questions. And normally they're Oklahomans that are asking us what our favorite restaurants are, stuff like that. And it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's something we've talked about doing for a long time. And we finally just said, all right, we're doing it. And I've learned a lot here in the last couple of weeks. I'm doing all the recording, editing, publishing. So
fun,
I've acquired
isn't it?
a skill. It is something I am not good at. I'm not a very tech savvy guy, so it's got me out of my comfort zone for sure. But I've really enjoyed learning something new, and I think we're putting some pretty solid shows together. Actually, our show coming up that'll drop Thursday morning, we're interviewing Kenny Stills. So he was a
cool.
teammate of mine at OU, but clearly a wide receiver for the Houston Texans. And if you can believe it or not, he is going into year 8 in the National Football League. So, excited to have Kenny on this week. We've had Blake Bell on, we've had Gerald McCoy on, and with the relationships that we've established over the years, we should be able to get a lot of cool guests. But it's going to be a lot of fun to talk sports and focus on the state of Oklahoma, because state deserves it, man.
Yeah,
it deserves to be celebrated and highlighted, not made fun of.
Yeah, well, stuff like the Tiger King doesn't help, but
that didn't help much. You're right.
So, I'm so glad he was wearing a Texas Longhorn hat.
Yeah, all you kept saying the Texas stuff. Now, one other thing before we let you go, did Sterling Shepard ever talk about me and Rob?
Did Sterling Shepard ever talk about you? I still keep in touch with Sterling. Do you need me? What did you guys do? What did you do, Terry?
We were his first football coaches.
Oh my goodness!
Fourth grade, yeah.
Fourth grade. Yes, sir.
Sure claim to fame right there, boy.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Everything he knows.
Yeah, we'd be watching a game. Me and Rob, I taught him that. No, I taught him that. We had a very, very, very complex, play calling. It was similar to Lincoln Riley. He has that piece of paper. That's kind of like what we had. It was like, which way do we give it to Sterling? Left or right?
I think that's probably a pretty good offensive game plan.
It worked out. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I think the New York Giants may utilize something similar next year if our man Sterling can stay healthy and stay on the field.
Him and Caleb were like attached at the hip in grade school. He was always over at my house until him and his mom moved up here to the city. He wrestled because Caleb wrestled when he was little. He got on the wrestling mat a couple of times. He didn't know anything about wrestling in the 4th grade, but he was stronger than any kid that he ever wrestled, and usually that's how he won. Was he just
not much technique?
Yeah, not much technique. They just grab him, and I'm serious. The kid was Rob. Did he not have? He was just ripped.
100%. Just
ridiculous how many muscles that kid had, and to be as small as he was. But you could tell. I mean, not just the pedigree. There were one of our favorite stories was that he returned a kickoff, for a touchdown in the 4th grade, and right in front of me and Rob, and he had this knack. He would lower his shoulder to run over somebody, but when he hit him, he would throw his head up, and hit him underneath the face mask with the top of his, back of his helmet, and knock him down. Almost every time he ran, he kicked that head up. He ran over this kid, and I kid you not, stepped on his chest.
Stomped his chest on his way over.
On his way over. And that was the last guy. And me and Rob being the coaches, we just turned at each other. It was like, oh my God, did you see that?
I had video of it forever, but I can't find it anymore, so I don't know what happened to it.
But that's our claim to, most of the stuff I think he learned from one or the other of us. But yeah, like I said, our play calling was, Rob would turn to me sometimes and go, "What do you think? Same play? It doesn't make. Just give it to Sterling." But we'd mix it up every now and then. Pitch it.
Seems like a good plan.
Yeah, pitch it to Sterling, let him throw a pass because he could throw it a country mile too.
Yeah, any team we played, he was always the best player on the field, no matter what, right?
But so we were just wondering if he ever. But no, I haven't seen him in a while. But I used to run into him when he played at OU. Nicest kid. Every time I did, he would come up, give me a big hug, and my wife Teresa'd always get mad because she was never around when I saw him or when I'd run into him, and. But great kid, great family. He used to give me the craziest looks when he was his mom would come and get him to go to the OU game or something at the house if we weren't going to the game. And I was like, well, Sterling, when are you going to get, why can't I go? Can you get the coaches to let me come with you? And he'd look at me. I don't think they'd do that, Coach, because he called me. Have you asked? No. Well, do me a favor. Ask. He never did, but... Anyway, so and now you can tell everybody you talked to Sterling's first coaches. So
yeah, I'll have
I'm
to
sure that's
know.
on the list.
but hey, Gabe, again, we appreciate you taking the time out, and we wish you the best of luck with your podcast. Hope you had a good time, and will join us again sometime.
All right, guys, I appreciate you having me. It was a lot of fun.
Well, we appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot, man. We really do appreciate it.
All right, boys.
Well,
Sooner.
See you later. Boomer. Sooner fans, you really need to go check out our podcast partners. First off, teambarfinder.com. Download their app on the Apple Store or on Google Play. Find out where you can watch your Sooners locally at your local pub. Also, go check out tailgateconnect.com for the best tailgates across the country. And go learn football from Jason Young, JY, and the Trench Warfare Report, www.trenchwarfarereport.com. Let's get this going.